What's up, guys? Today we're going to talk about the top 10 flute players in jazz. We really want to thank all of our Patreons for their generous support of this channel. They donate as little as $1 a month to keep this channel going. Check out the link for more information. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for notifications about future videos. And we also really want to hear from you all, so drop a comment down below about a future video that you'd like to see us do. I'm really excited to talk about flute players in jazz today because the flute is an ancient instrument originating from China in 900 BC. And the basic mechanics of the instrument lays the groundwork for most of the other woodwind instruments. Because the flute is not as loud as many of the other instruments, it wasn't as practical for outdoor concerts and events like funeral marches in New Orleans. Even the clarinet wasn't quite loud enough for a lot of these events, hence the invention of the saxophone. But there's something really special about the sound of the flute. It's extremely precise and delicate, and allows for a lot of inflection and vibrato. When electric microphones got more and more prevalent, the flute gained prominence in jazz. The same thing goes for the acoustic guitar. The flute's unique qualities make it adaptable to many different styles of music, including classical, jazz, funk, Latin, and R&B. Before we get to the list, I just want to acknowledge someone who I think deserves the most praise in the history of the jazz flute, and that's the great Ron Burgundy. Let's have a moment of silence for Ron. Okay, that's enough. Let's get to the list. Coming in at number 10, for top 10 flute players in jazz, we have Herbie Mann. Mann was among the first jazz musicians to specialize on the flute and was an early practitioner of world music, combining jazz with Latin, funk, and soul music. He emphasized the groove approach in his music, and his most popular single was entitled Hijack, which was a Billboard #1 dance hit for 3 weeks in 1975. Coming in at number 9, for top 10 flute players in jazz, we have Yusef Latif. Although Latif's main instruments were the tenor saxophone and the flute, he also played oboe and bassoon, among other rare non-Western instruments. He's known for having been an innovator in the blending of jazz with Eastern music. Latif was a member of the Cannonball Adderley Sextet for several years. He was a Renaissance man, a composer, an author of several novels, owned his own record company, and his own music publishing company. Coming in at number 8, for top 10 flute players in jazz, we have Jerome Richardson. He played all the saxophones, all the clarinets, and all the flutes. He was incredibly in demand throughout his career as a sideman, and is especially known for his playing with Charles Mingus, Lionel Hampton, Billy Eckstine, the Thad Jones Mel Lewis Orchestra, guitarist Kenny Burrell, and pianist Earl Hines. Coming in at number 7, for top 10 flute players in jazz, we have Lou Tabachin. Tabachin studied classical flute at the Philadelphia Conservatory of Music. In New York, he worked with Chuck Israels, Elvin Jones, Donald Byrd, Roland Hanna, and Clark Terry. He married the Japanese pianist and composer Toshiko Akiyoshi, and they joined forces to form a big band. Toshiko played piano and wrote all the arrangements, and Lou was the featured reed soloist from 1973 until 2003. Lou's Coleman Hawkins-esque tenor playing contrasts nicely with his delicate but aggressive flute playing. Coming in at number 6, for top 10 flute players in jazz, we have Sam Most. Although he's not a household name in jazz history, the jazz historian Leonard Feather said that Sam Most was probably the first great jazz flutist. As a teenager, Most began playing with bands led by Tommy Dorsey and Don Redman. He was a member of the Buddy Rich Orchestra for 3 years and recorded extensively as a leader as well as with pianist Teddy Wilson. Coming in at number 5 for top 10 flute players in jazz, we have Rassan Roland Kirk. Kirk played the saxophones, flute, and many other odd instruments. He became blind at 2 years old, but could somehow see more music than the rest of us. He was known for his on-stage antics. In between virtuoso improvisations, he would offer comic banter, political ranting, and even playing several instruments simultaneously. He was very experimental and often rebuilt his instruments to suit his needs. Coming in at number 4 for top 10 flute players in jazz, we have Hubbert Laws. Laws had a career spanning over 50 years as one of the most respected flutists in the history of American music. He's collaborated with a wide range of artists, including Ella Fitzgerald, Aretha Franklin, Herbie Hancock, Paul Simon, Jaco Pastorius, and Stevie Wonder, as well as extensive performing with the top symphony orchestras in the world. Laws is one of the few classical artists who moves effortlessly from one genre to another, including jazz, funk, classical, pop, and R&B. One night when my brother and I were performing in Los Angeles, we finished our set and found out that Hubbert Laws was sitting in the front row. I'm really glad I wasn't aware of this during our set. Hubbert was extremely complimentary and supportive. That meant so much to us. Thanks, Hubbert. Coming in at number 3 for top 10 flute players in jazz, we have Eric Dolphy. Eric Dolphy's improvisational style was characterized by the use of wide intervals in addition to employing an array of extended techniques to emulate the sounds of human voices and animals. Although his saxophone and bass clarinet playing could be very brash, Dolphy had a deep appreciation for the sensitivity of the flute. His work is often classified as free jazz, but his compositions and solos were loosely rooted in conventional tonal bebop harmony. Coming in at number 2 for top 10 flute players in jazz, we have Frank Wess. He was the star soloist in Count Basie's band throughout the 50s and 60s. On the tenor sax, he was a Lester Young protege. He was the leading flautist of his era, introducing the flute to the big band jazz audience. For 5 years in a row, he won the Downbeat Magazine Flute Critics Poll, and in 2007, was named an NEA Jazz Master by the National Endowment for the Arts. Being a reed doubler takes a lot of discipline and attention to each individual instrument, and often when these jazz greats got older, they would put 1 or 2 of their horns to the side and just focus on one. But Frank Wess really played his flute and sax until the very end. I have so many fond memories of playing with Frank Wess in his apartment in New York City, where he would effortlessly go back and forth from the flute to the saxophone. He was really an inspiration. Coming in at number 1 for top 10 flute players in jazz, we have James Moody. Early on, Moody was influenced by the saxophonists Buddy Tate, Don Byas, and Lester Young. Soon after, he fell in love with the flute. Following his discharge from the military in 1946, he joined Dizzy Gillespie's quintet for 2 years. After living in Europe, recording several hits, including Moody's Mood for Love, he rejoined Gillespie in the 1960s. His jazz style and technique on the flute is unmatched. Moody was very active throughout his entire life as a jazz ambassador, performing all over the world with the likes of John Faddis, Jimmy Smith, Kenny Burrell, Grady Tate, Jimmy Heath, Slide Hampton, and Kenny Barron. So that's the list, guys. We hope you enjoy. If you think we left anyone off this list, please drop us a comment below. You can also let us know what video subject you'd like to see in the future. I for one think jazz flute playing is often underappreciated, and most of all want to thank the king of the jazz flute, Ron Burgundy. Again, we really want to thank our Patreons for helping make this channel possible. You can check out the link below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. We'll see you next time.